Hi, I'm Gail Bannock.
And I'm Ilana Santone. Welcome to the She Means Business podcast. Throughout our careers, we faced countless questions and sought advice from other women we respect and admire. And that's exactly what this show is about.
Each week, we aim to help you achieve your goals by sharing our experiences and talking with successful leaders, offering real stories, practical advice, and actionable takeaways for women who mean business. All right, let's do this.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the She Means Business podcast. Today, we're so thrilled to welcome Monica Aw to the show. Monica, also known as Awed by Moni, is a seasoned fashion and lifestyle creator with over 12 years of experience and more than 20 years in luxury retail. Monica is a Nigerian Canadian living in Atlanta, and she blends her cultural heritage and timeless elegance, inspiring her global audience of awe stars with her expert insights and relatable content. Monica is also the designer and founder of Awelewa by Monica, a fashion brand dedicated to creating elevated, luxurious essentials that celebrate personal stories through thoughtful design. A proud wife and mother, Monica balances family life with her passion for empowering women to feel confident and stylish, solidifying her role as a trusted voice in fashion, lifestyle, and luxury. I personally really enjoy seeing her on her Awed by Moni Instagram page, and I've both been inspired and been learning from her over many years. So I'm thrilled to have her on the show. Welcome to the show, Monica. We're so happy to have you.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
So you're a little bit of a different background than we've had on the show so far, and we're really excited to hear about your journey. And for you, the big question is, how does one become a blogger and influencer like you have?
Okay. Well, I'll start with my background and then I'll answer that question of how does one become, or my path. Kind of like what you said in the intro. And thank you for that lovely introduction, by the way. I worked luxury retail for over 20 years. I got to work with so many amazing brands and just really understanding the business of fashion. I also studied the business of fashion, and I studied sociology and mass communication at York. But for me, I always wondered, how do I get to merge my passion for fashion with all my education? And I really got to do that. I had the opportunity to pivot in 2012 and start a blog where I just started talking about fashion. I always had clients tell me they wish they could take me home with them. So for me, it was like, how do I get to be with everyone at the same time? So hence the blog came to fruition. Actually, my sister pushed me to do something because that was me on maternity leave with my daughter. So I figured, you know what? This is a good time. I'm on leave. I'll start a blog. I'll start talking about all the things I love. And that literally turned into a job. I had friends who were already kind of blogging and talking about things that they loved. And then a friend of mine who worked in media suggested that I just start tagging all the brands that I talk about. So from tagging brands, I remember the first brand that reached out and was like, we want you to wear our clothes and we'll pay you to wear our clothes. And I'm like, what? You'll pay me to wear clothes? I'm like, sure.
Okay.
So it was literally that passion for fashion and talking about all things fashion that I just had multiple brands start reaching out, and I got to create content around that. And the rest is history in terms of the content creation. But I also own my brand, Awelewa by Monica, which I recently launched last year. And this was another passion project of mine, being able to have my own product, considering I had sold so many products for so many different brands for so many years. But being able to offer my expertise as a leather expert and create something that really spoke to my brand and what I knew about leather and what I know and what I love about luxury. So making something that was affordable luxury was definitely a big step for me. And then just being able to share that passion and being able to see women look their best has just probably been the most rewarding part of it all for me. So just being able to create something out of nothing and to see it flourish. And this is year 13 now. So I feel like the sky's the limit and we're only growing. Yes.
Good for you.
Good for you. That's incredible. It's a very interesting industry of people who were just self-starters and just stuck with it. And it's amazing that you've achieved all that you have. And I don't think it's by accident at all. Let me ask you, as a creator, your business is really centered around you, the content you publish, the ideas of what people would find interesting is all comes from you. And as someone who's also creating content now, I have a lot of respect for you. It's a ton of work. So firstly, kind of two questions. Firstly, where does your inspiration come from? In other words, like how do you decide what to create? And then secondly, how do you stay creative and continue to come up with fresh content ideas?
First of all, being the face of the business is both a strength and a responsibility because it's a lot. Like you don't really get down days, right? So for me, because I always have to show up, I like to plan in advance. So what I do or what has been helpful for me is working with a strategy manager. So I have a strategy manager and we meet pretty much about 4 times each month. So in the month in advance. And for our first meeting, we really just go over all the things that resonated with my audience. Like, what did they love? What did they respond well to? What questions did they ask? What suggestions did they give? And I get to build on that. And that has probably been the most helpful thing, just paying attention to what my listeners or what my audience really wants to see. What styling tips do they want or what's happening in the fashion world? So always a plethora of content that I can get to create. Just because people are always dressing up, people always have questions, people are always shopping. So for me as a content creator, my job is to make sure that my audience is they're buying the right things and they're making choices wisely. And even though we're just having that conversation about the quality of a lot of luxury goods going down, so it's more so informative to let them know that, yes, you're still getting better quality, but it could be better and there's still options. But if you still want to buy that, that's okay too.
That's great. I wondered, like, as a fashion influencer, what I can't even imagine what your days look like. So give us a sense of what does a day of an influencer look like?
Well, I still think my life is somewhat boring. I do get up very early in the morning. Well, I guess early is relative because I know some people that get up earlier than me. So I get up about 6:45 in the morning. I give myself a little bit of grace. I have a quick workout, shower, all the things. My kids are a little older, so I don't have to get them ready. I used to do that before and I used to take them to school, but now I kind of focus on myself in the morning. And once I do my workout, shower, makeup, all of that, I head straight to my office. If it's not a posting day, I check my emails and then just go through the calendar. And the days vary depending on the day. It could be a day where I'm posting. So if I'm posting, I'm on Instagram engaging after posting for about an hour and then go back to emails. Then it's content creation and I have to post on TikTok. If it's a day that I have to create a YouTube video, that's another 4-hour process. And then the engaging on every platform. So the main platforms that I'm on are Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. And that means engagement on all 3 platforms, posting on all 3 platforms, making sure that everything is grammatically correct and there's no errors, making sure that I have content that's shoppable for them on the LTK app or on other affiliate platforms that I use. And then taking a quick lunch break. Sometimes my lunch breaks are working breaks because every process is just time consuming and there's only really 8 hours in the working day. But for me, it's literally about 8:30 in the morning to about 6:30 at night. And then once I'm done at night, I try my best to shut everything down. But sometimes it's hard because sometimes there's usually things pending or there's a brand that I need to create content for. And then I have to sign everything over, go over contracts, get on calls with my accountant and then my strategy manager. And then I also have someone who works for me. So we work in tangent in terms of shopping for content to post or to talk about. So I have to communicate with her and make sure she has everything she needs or she's sending stuff my way to make sure it's aligned with the brand. Then I go to Threads and make sure my threads are up and running.
Wow.
And then I like to share motivational content too, at least 3 times a week. So making sure my broadcast channel has their Motivational Monday content or their midweek motivational content. And then selecting the must-haves of the week. So there's always something. It's a lot of work. I know a lot of people think it's just pretty pictures, but there's a lot.
That's the thing. I think it's such an unfair job because you make it look easy and people think it's easy, but the amount of work that goes into planning, recording, editing, and then I didn't even think about all of like the contract reviews and the meeting with brands and all of that.
The average contract is at least 10 pages. And I have to go through that. Even with management, you still have to kind of go over it. Like management will go over everything, but you have to now go back again and make sure there's nothing that was missed. And if there's red lines, then we're going back and forth with the brand again, making sure that everything is aligned and making sure they understand that I own my content, because everybody's trying to own the content. But I'm like, no, I own my content and you can only use it for a certain amount of time. And then also there's emails. My inbox is insane. The emails are probably one of the most intimidating because everybody wants you to do something for them.
The DMs, it's I don't know how you all like respond to all these DMs. Like, there's just so many.
Well, luckily, Meta has a new beta program that I'm a part of where they have AI responses to DMs. So that helps a little bit. But sometimes some of the responses are like offering my services I'm like, no, don't sign me up for anything. Telling people that, yeah, I will be happy to. I'm like, no, I'm already stretched thin. So, but the DMs, I try my best.
I mean, we all have jobs where there's work-life balance or work-life integration, whatever you want to call it. I feel like in your field, the lines are so blurry because your phone's with you all the time and you could be creating content all the time and the content could be whatever you want. And how do you impose restrictions on yourself to make sure that it does not just take over your life? Because I think that's a challenge for all of us, regardless of what industry we're in.
Well, honestly, at first, I felt like it was definitely taking over my life because every moment was Instagrammable. Going on vacation, oh, you definitely want to capture this. So I think once I started using a strategy manager and once I started being very intentional about how I was showing up in the content I created, it allowed me to disconnect. It allowed me to put my phone down. Having content calendars and planning in advance means that I don't have to take pictures everywhere I go. Like before, if I would go to an event and like, oh, let's stop here. This is a good place to take a quick picture. Right. Now, all the pictures are taken in advance, right? Now I can go to a restaurant and okay, I'll take a quick picture of what I'm eating or maybe the venue, and that's it. I'm not second guessing myself anymore just because I'm organized now. I understand that not everything needs to be shared. I understand that I don't always have to put 1,000% of my time into this. I can segment things and share what is aligned with the content that I'm creating at the moment. So I think just strategizing, planning in advance has literally been a game changer for me. It was my sister that kind of like honed in on, you got to get organized. And it's been a game changer, and it's really helped me stop and focus on what's in front of me as opposed to always thinking about what kind of content I'm going to create.
That's great. Okay, so we want to shift gears a little bit. It's not often we get a fashion expert onto our show. And I think one of the things we were excited about is there's a lot of questions that people, especially women, have about how to show up. I mean, we're very engaged in the corporate world. And there is a little bit, especially for women, on like, how do I show up? What do I wear? What does that say about me if I wear certain things, et cetera? And I know I've loved watching you build ensembles. And what I love about what you do is it's a range. It's not only luxury. You really do have a sense of like, what's your budget, et cetera. So we thought maybe what we do is dig into a few scenarios. So I'm going to give you a few and maybe just give us your take on it. So here's one. I'm more junior in my career and I don't have a lot of disposable income, but I want to look professional and I want to show up well. What do you suggest? How do I approach it?
I suggest to start with clean basics. You can get great basics anywhere from H&M to COS, but because we're on a budget, start with clean basics, create monochromatic outfits. For instance, I'm wearing a gray turtleneck today with the gray slacks. Everything reasonably priced, not luxury price points, but I look pretty well put together. I look very professional, very approachable. So starting with clean basics like your turtleneck, your dress shirts, keeping your outfit monochromatic always works. A clean pair of pumps. Sometimes simple is just the best, and simple is more approachable. Simple is more professional. I loved for people to add a little bit of their personal style. So if you are a fan of a brooch, put on a nice brooch. If you like statement earrings, I would say a nice hoop. That can always add a little bit of personality, but keep everything simple. You don't want to go overboard, but you want to keep it clean and classic, because I could say that my turtleneck is from Fendi and I spent $1,000 on it. You wouldn't know that because it's going to look the same, being that this is from COS and it's under $80. So it's just a matter of keeping it simple sometimes, especially when you want to look professional and you want to look elevated.
That would have been very helpful for me when I was more junior in my career.
I think it's helpful now.
Yeah, it's helpful now for sure. I mean, totally.
It applies now. Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a long time to figure out the monochromatic. I really like it. Okay, so now I'm someone who has a lot of stuff in my wardrobe. I have a repertoire, but I want to update my style for the season or for the year. Where do I start with that?
Since you have a lot of stuff in your wardrobe, I would actually recommend to go on an app like Pinterest and create a mood board for your personal style. Scroll through and see what speaks to you and what speaks to what's actually in your wardrobe already. And then you can start using that as reference points to build on your outfits. So on YouTube, I have a really cool series called Outfit of the Day, the Outfit Breakdown, where I dress by themes. So each week I have a theme. And this week the week coming is quiet luxury. So I basically, with this theme in mind, I reference my mood boards on Pinterest, and then I go to my closet and I start pulling things that kind of are similar or have that same kind of vibe that I'm dressing for the week. And that is probably the easiest way to just build. And you literally have a week's worth of outfits based on a theme. You don't have to second guess it. Everything works seamless, and the themes change. I have about 12 to I think 15 themes that I rotate. So I've done everything from denim weeks to sweats and hoodies and just dressing up sweats, hoodies, and joggers. You'll be surprised how versatile they really are. And so that has been a game changer for me. And it's something that I try to educate people on. It's something that I push on my audience to try to make just their life a little easier. And that way they're not including new things. I would say only include new things into your wardrobe after you've done this. You've looked at what you have. And if there's nothing, then maybe you can consider buying a new necklace or buying a new accessory that's a bit more on trend to make your outfits look a bit more updated.
I think that planning thing is a big game changer. Yeah. I've been doing it for a few weeks, and man, like it just takes away the stress of the morning. Yes. When you actually plan out your outfits, you iron them all up and you're ready to go for the week. A huge game changer. You've talked a lot about that kind of luxury designer pieces. And I know there's this going back and forth, and you do a lot of that between kind of the basics or buying your standards from kind of the regular market, I guess you would call it, and then buying those designer pieces. How do you suggest you get into those designer pieces? Like if I've never done it before, how would you think about it?
So for me, when I look at designer pieces, I like to look at them as investment pieces, right? Even though most people will not sell them, but you want to at least know that your dollar is going far and you're making wise decisions or you're investing well, because for the most part, they're pretty expensive. So I always like to say, start with classics. Start with classics from whichever brand is your favorite brand. And that's always a great way to start. Unfortunately, a lot of classics right now are extremely expensive, but there are still a lot of brands that offer more attainable price points. So I would always say, start with those pieces. Look at the leather, have a sales associate that can really educate you on your purchase, and think about your lifestyle. So for me, I work from home. I am a creator, at least for me, because I've been collecting things for a long time. I usually go for fun pieces like that little fun, like Murakami bag that we were talking about. But if you're just starting afresh, you want to go for pieces that really speak to your lifestyle. Like, what do you do for a living? Do you need a work bag? Do you need a dinner bag? Do you want something that can serve both purposes, something that you can wear from day to night seamlessly? Those are all the different things you have to keep in mind when you start to look into luxury purchases.
Talk to us about the importance of how you look in terms of how you show up. Can you talk a little bit about that and how it relates to style or how you put yourself together?
So we definitely live in a very visual society. As much as, we like to say we don't care how we look and it shouldn't matter. Unfortunately, it matters. It matters a lot. So I am a really big advocate about showing up the way you want people to receive you. So if you want people to take you serious, you have to dress the part. And this has a lot to do with style. And you don't have to be flamboyant. You don't have to overdress. You can literally be very clean and classic, but be professional. And you want people to receive you in that manner. So the way you look matters. Make sure your clothes are ironed and they're not wrinkly. Make sure you're clean and classic. You're simple. Add elements of your personal style to make sure that things resonate, or at least a little bit of you is showing through in your style. But you always want to try and keep it clean and classic, because when people see you, that's what they see first. Before you open your mouth, they see what you look like and they receive you that way. And this has been my experience in life in general. And I think we can all attest to that people do treat you differently depending on how they receive you or what they initially believe who you are. I strongly advocate dress up every morning, move with your best foot forward. You know, we live once, so you might as well show up the way you want to be received.
Oh, I love that. I love that approach. Last question that we like to ask our guests is, knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self?
Trust my instincts. I got this. I am the expert. I'm not just doing it or saying it because that's what everyone's doing, but I actually know what I'm talking about. So I would definitely advise myself to trust my instincts. Quality over quantity. I didn't have to do all the extra posts that I was doing in the past, but just doing things that actually make sense for me and embracing every stage. This is a journey. It's not a race. It's not, I don't have to compare myself. I don't have to do what everyone else is doing, but just understand that there's growth in this and embrace every change and pivot when necessary.
I love that. I think that's very applicable to us all.
Yes.
And that's really great advice. So thank you, Monica. This has been very educational. I'm going to go ahead and make my week's worth of planned outfits and get organized and feel good about it and love it. We encourage everybody to follow Odd by Monica, your handle on Instagram. We're going to tag you, and we love watching you and continue to be inspired by you. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Monica. It was great.
A pleasure. Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
I really loved that episode. So first of all, for someone who's not really into that world, and that by that world, I mean blogging, influencer, fashion person, learned a lot. And I thought what was really interesting about this episode, and I think we could probably break our debrief into two, but like there's the part about where her job is really like, you can take a lot from her job and apply it to any of our jobs and how she kind of thinks about it, which I'd like to touch on. And then I think there's a second one just on that whole statement around like, show up as you intend to be received. So I thought both of those were really interesting. I think on the first one, obviously building a business around yourself creates a different approach because you are the asset. But she said a few things like, pay attention to the audience you're going for. And I mean, whether your audience is a customer audience or an Instagram audience or just a leader in the organization who you're trying to pitch to or sell an idea to, or how she got organized with the strategy manager, or how she's had to really focus on that time management components. Like when you really think about how she runs her day, it's almost exactly like what we would advise people around us, Gail, in terms of how they approach their work on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that was the most kind of impressive, surprising thing to me. I mean, first, her energy is amazing. So I'm not surprised that she's in this line of work. But this time management, like the amount of bits and pieces that she's managing through. I mean, she's a lawyer. She's a negotiator. She's a business development person. She's PR. She's marketing. She's content development. She's design. She's production. Like, she really is wearing all of these different hats, and the only way to do that is through excessive planning. And we all, maybe not to that same degree, but we all put on different hats in our day-to-day, and we have to kind of play different roles. And I think the idea of just being very mindful and planful about it so that that's the only way to do it.
I agree. And we've talked about being prepared before and planning, but I mean, I even there's just this week, I was feeling very... She described herself as being overwhelmed. She gets to the end of the day and there's more to do. And I was kind of in that space this past week. And I found I had to like stop myself yesterday and say, okay, how do I come back next week and not feel this like I'm always behind and get ahead? And I think this notion of planning out and really being deliberate with your time, whether you're an influencer, whether you're a leader, whether you're someone who's just starting out, huge value in making sure you're spending your time in the place that's going to unlock the most value.
Agreed. I love what she said around show up how you want to be received. And it very much speaks to this idea of dress for the job you want. We often think about that for the interview, but I apply that basically every day. And I've been in many jobs where I don't dress like my team, or I don't even dress like my colleagues because I'm planning for the next job, or I'm thinking about how I'm perceived. And especially as a woman, when I was a younger woman in the workforce and I wanted to be taken seriously, dressing in that way is a really easy way to communicate how you want to be treated. And if you're wearing a blazer, you'll be treated better than if you're wearing a t-shirt. And if you're wearing heels, you'll probably be treated better than if you're wearing runners. And so I think it's just an interesting way to convey your ambition in the way that you dress.
Yeah, agreed. And I think everyone has to find their own style. I think that's one thing I've learned. Like in some cases, I don't feel comfortable wearing some things other people would wear. And so I think the way she described classics for Gail, maybe classics different than classics for Ilana, maybe different than classics for Monica. But like how we show up and how we put ourselves together to be received the way we want, putting that personal touch on, I think is really important. And as I said, when we were talking with Monica, just watching her on Instagram and then kind of, I love this idea of a Pinterest board. I'm actually going to do that as we leave.
I pin all day long.
I know you do. I'm not a
there
pinner.
And I pin. Oh my God,
but I think that's an interesting, but it's like a strategizing, right? Like I relate to that. It's like being strategic about your wardrobe, like taking out your pieces, figuring out what the outfits are. I'm loving this. I'm actually going to go do it. I'm marking it right now. I'm going to go do this pin board. I'm going to continue with this planning my wardrobe. It's going to relieve a lot of stress for me. So
that's going to be my thing. I think the planning the week. I'm used to planning the night before, but now I'm going to up my game and plan for the week. Let's see how it goes.
All right. I think we have some work to do. Let's do it.
For sure. Thanks for listening to this episode of She Means Business. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen to podcasts, and head over to our show notes where you can find helpful links and summaries of key points from the episode. We'd also love to hear from you on LinkedIn or Instagram, so please follow and DM us at the She Means Business podcast. See you next time.